Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today we're going to make this fun little window card. We're going to be doing the stamping with the Lawn Fawn Seahorsin Around stamps and die sets. And we're going to be stamping on the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. And then we're going to also be stamping on the Spiffy Speckles Petite Paper Pack in the pink, yellow, and lavender colors. So I've just cut little sections of those. I'm going to be doing my stamping using the VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and this is a permanent ink, and I'm going to stamp all three of these little panels. I'm also going to stamp the little bubbles from that same set. I need 3 of those, and I'm cleaning them off using my Lawn Fawn Stamp Shammy. Now, to do the seagrass, I'm going to be using the Freshly Cut Grass and the Noble Fir. And these are 2 water-based ink pads from Lawn Fawn. And I'm going to ink it up completely with the lighter green color. And then I'm just going to tap the bottom part of the stamp onto that darker Noble Fir color. So we get kind of a two-toned effect. And you'll see here, this first stamping wasn't as good as the others. So I'm going to ignore that first one. Sometimes when you're stamping with the acrylic stamps with water-based ink, that first stamping isn't perfect. So I'm just going to ignore that first one and use those other 3. So now I'm going to grab the coordinating dies and I'm going to attach those with a little bit of purple tape. And then for the seahorse, I'm going to die cut the seahorse out of some white Bristol Smooth cardstock, because we're going to be fussy cutting the little seahorses from the colored paper there. So now I have my Sizzix Sidekick machine from Tim Holtz, and I'm going to run all these little pieces through my machine. So now that we have everything die cut, for these little seahorses, I'm going to be fussy cutting them. And I just wanted to show you, these are the Tim Holtz mini scissors. These are the 5-inch scissors. And I just picked these up, and they kind of have a little bit of a serrated edge to them. And I thought they did do pretty well with the fussy cutting. So I continue to cut these and trim these all the way right up to the black line. And I did the same thing for all 3 of these. So now I have my Lawn Fawn Prisma glitter here, and I'm going to be adding some glitter to the seahorses. So I'm using my Lawn Fawn glue tube, and I'm just going to add a little bit of glue. I'm just testing it on some scrap paper there first, but I'm adding a little bit of glue to, I guess, what would be the mane on the horse, and just adding it within those black lines. So it's trying to stay within the black lines. I'm just adding the glue there. Then I'm just going to dunk that right into the glitter and tap off any excess, and that'll give a little bit of dimension there to those seahorses. So I went ahead and I did that for all 3 of these. And then if the glitter went over the lines just a little bit, I'm just using my tweezers, or you could use a pick tool just to clean up any excess there while it's still wet. So now I'm going to add glue to the back of these seahorses and attach them to the white die cut pieces. And that's going to give us that little white border all the way around. And I did use glue here just so I could move them around a little bit and make sure they're lined up perfectly. So now I'm going to just grab my light pink and my blender pen from my Zig Clean Color Real Brush pens. I'm putting down a little bit of blender fluid first, then the pink, and then blending it out. And since this isn't blender paper, it doesn't blend a lot, but you get enough just to kind of smooth it out a little bit there. So now for these little bubbles, I wanted to show you, these are the Nuvo Dream Drops, and they're kind of an iridescent drop. And I'm going to be using that one there, which is called Cloud 9. And I put it on some black paper here just so you could see it a little bit better. Plus it does work really well on your darker papers as well. So I'm just going to add a little bit of that to the centers of each of these bubbles. And it's going to kind of coordinate with the glittery cardstock we're going to be using for the frame later on. I'm going to make a standard A2 size card, so it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm just folding it and pressing that down with my bone folder. And then I've grabbed a piece of this yellow wood grain cardstock. And this is from the Knock on Wood Petite Paper Pack. And we're going to be using that yellow color. And I'm taking the largest frame from the outside in stitched rectangle Stackables. And I'm going to go ahead and run that through my die cutting machine. I'm using my Spellbinders Platinum 6 machine. And now you can see what a beautiful stitched border that leaves all the way around. So I'm centering this on my card and taping it in place just temporarily here. So now I'm going to take the small stitched circle Stackables, and I want that largest one. And again, just kind of holding this paper in place while I center this circle on this panel. Then I'm going to attach the tape to the inside portion of that circle so that I can run it through my die cutting machine. So I just kind of centered it so that the top and the two sides were about equal distance from the edges. So I don't need that yellow circle, and this panel is going to get centered right on the front of our card. But first I need to cut the opening in the card itself. So I'm going to just center this yellow panel and again temporarily tape that into place. And then this circle will fit right back in. It almost like locks into place here. And then I'm just going to tape it down really well. Remove that purple tape. Open the card up because we just want to cut through the front of the card, not the back. So with that card open, I'm going to go ahead and run that through my die cutting machine. So now you can see that we have that panel cut all the way through. Now I am going to keep that circle there because we're going to be doing the scene on that circle. So now I just want to center this up again, and I'm going to use the glue just so that I have a little chance to move this around if I need to. So I'm just going to center this on my card and position it down. And when you're dealing with something large like this, I like to grab a piece of scrap paper and just use that to press everything in place. That way I can make sure that my card stays nice and clean. Now I'm just going to go back and press that crease. And now you can see we have this nice little opening in our card. Now that circle is going to fit right back into the center there, and we're going to do our scene on this. So I'm taking my Tombow mini glue tape just to hold this in place while we do some of our stenciling. So I'm going to be using this Stampers Anonymous Tim Holtz stencil, and I thought it kind of looked like water, even though the name of it is called String Layering Stencil. We're just going to use it as water today. So I'm going to position this where I want it to be, and I'm going to put a little bit of purple tape there to hold it down. Now I'm going to be using my Nuvo Embellishment Mousse, and I've got two shades of blue here, kind of a darker blue and then a lighter blue. And this one, the darker one, is called Pacific Teal, and this lighter one here is called Coastal Surf. So I just wanted to show you that I do keep my little foam applicators right inside the containers. Keeps them nice and moist. And I also do keep the foil on my containers as well, just to keep the moisture in. And on this darker blue, it was a little bit drier than the other one, and you'll see that later. So you want to make sure that you press it out on your glass mat first, just to make sure you don't have any big clumps on the bottom of your applicator. So just take it to the glass mat and just press it down, and then go to your stencil. And you want to carefully stencil this because it is very delicate, So I'm just kind of dabbing it on and trying to pull just in one direction. So now I'm going to go to this lighter shade, and this one seemed to blend a little bit easier, so I'm just going to blend that out and kind of blend the dark and the light together. So now I'm going to remove that stencil, and I'm going to make sure that I clean it off before I put it away. And I'm also going to clean off my glass mat in a minute here. But first, I want to just tone down the white a little bit on this panel. So I'm going to, without applying any additional ink to my applicator, I'm just going to go over the top of the whole thing and just kind of smooth that out a little bit. Again, just toning down that white. And you're going to see how beautiful this is. It gives a little bit of texture, but a beautiful shimmery shine to it. So you do want to make sure you clean everything up. So I did pause to clean all my tools and everything. So now I'm grabbing the cardstock in the craft color. We're going to be using that same circle die that we used before, and the stitched simple wavy borders, and I'm using that mid-size one, and my sandy beach accents, and I'm using the two smaller ones. So we're going to go ahead and run all of that through the die cutting machine. So the first thing I want to do is my little stitched wavy border. We're going to be creating some sand here for the bottom of our scene. Now I want to add the stitched circle portion back to this, so I'm putting that same circle back onto this cardstock and running that through the die cutting machine. And that's going to finish off that edge with that pretty stitched edge there. And then I'm going to add my two little sandy accents dies and run that through as well. So now you can see how cute that is. So now I want to create a little shadowing here on the sand. So I'm taking my applicator tool and the Distress Oxide in the Gathered Twigs, and just clean off your applicator here first, or just dab it off onto your glass mat first, and then start applying that ink to your cardstock. And then for those two little slits that it made there, I'm just going to try to just pull those out and tuck a little bit of ink there along the top edges of those. And then just blend everything out again. We're going to be adding some more texture to this. We're going to be taking the Nuvo Stone Drops. And these have kind of a gritty texture to them. And this is called Gold Rush. And I thought it would look kind of like sand. And you can see there that, I don't know if you can tell, but it has kind of like a gritty texture to it. And I have a couple of other colors here. But we're going to be using the Gold Rush here today. I'm going to simply just squeeze it right onto my glass mat. And then I'm going to take a damp brush, and I'm using a flat edge brush. And I'm going to pick up those Nuvo drops. And I'm just going to kind of pat it on to the cardstock here. I want to create the look of a sandy beach. And I thought this would give it a lot of texture. And it would add that gold, sparkly, shimmery effect as well. It's kind of a metallic-y gold, I should say. But you will see here in a minute the beautiful texture that this adds. So see, you get that kind of sandy look. And I'll show you this again later once it's dry. So now using the Pixie Dust glitter cardstock, I'm going to die cut this Porthole. And this is from the Porthole Frames dies, and I'm using that largest one. And I'm also going to run a second one of these through using white Bristol Smooth cardstock. So I'll end up with two of those, which I'm going to glue together. And that's just to give the glitter cardstock a little bit more substance, because it is a little bit on the thinner side. So I want to make sure these holes are lined up perfectly. So I'm just going to use my pick tool and slide it in there just to line everything up. Now I'm just going to let that dry, and I'm going to work on the seam here, and that's going to fit right inside the circle on the frame. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this to my card. I'm using my ATG 700 gun, and I'm just going all around that circle, and this is a permanent double stick tape. And then you'll see that in order to place it exactly in the card, I'm closing the card, I'm centering it right in that circle, and you'll see that it lines up exactly. So now that that circle's in place, I can go ahead and attach this porthole frame to the front of my card. So you can see here that it's a little bit outside the circle here. So when I put glue on the frame, I want to make sure that I only put the glue right around the very edge here so that it won't show on the inside of the card. So I'm just going to apply glue again right to that edge. And then I'm going to position that on the front of my card. And I'm just going to temporarily place it down here on the front. Then I'm going to open it up just to make sure that it is centered. And you can see that by using the glue, I can slide it around a little bit here to make sure that it's perfectly aligned. And again, I'm going to grab my scrap paper and just press that out. And now we have that beautiful glittery frame. So now I'm taking the double slider surprise dies, and I'm going to use this little banner that's in the set. And I'm also going to be using that sentiment, again from the Seahorsin Around stamp set, and it says, "I see it's your birthday." I'm running that through the banner through my die cutting machine. And then I'm going to put a little bit of tape, again that glue tape right on the back here, which when you're done it just rubs right off, so you don't have to worry about that. It just holds it in place while you're doing your work. So I've lined up that stamp to fit onto that banner. And I just moved it around a little bit on my acrylic block until I got the positioning that I liked. And now I also want to stamp the inside of my card. So I'm going to use Hope You Have an Awesome Day from the Critter Concert collection. And I just placed that on my acrylic block kind of in a wavy motion. It is a straight stamp, but when you place it on your acrylic block, you can move it around in any way you want. So I just created a little bit of a wavy motion there. And then I'm going to position it down below the circle here so that when the card is closed, you won't be able to see that at all. And then for this little banner that we created, I'm going to take my Gina K Thermal Web white foam squares, and I'm just going to place those all over the back of this little banner. And again, for all the information on all these products, just check down below. I have a complete listing of everything I've used today. So now I'm going to position and center that little banner. And now for this little sandy edge, there you can see it up close, and you can see that beautiful gold shimmer and then the kind of like textured, grainy texture that it has. I just think it makes a beautiful sandy effect. So I'm going to take my glue tube and my little seagrass and just kind of tuck that in there. Just gluing it in place here. And then I'm going to go ahead and place glue all over the back of this little panel and attach this to my card. And I do want to make sure that the circle is lined up perfectly here so that when my card is closed, everything will line up properly. So I'm just sliding it right into place there. And again, a good reason to use the glue. And again, using my scrap paper just to press that down. So now we're going to add the little seahorses. And I decided to pop these up. So I'm going back to my Gina K foam squares here. And I'm just going to pop these up a little bit. So I went ahead and I did that for all 3 of those. Now for these little iridescent bubbles that we created earlier, I've let those dry completely. So now I'm going to go ahead and add some glue to the back of those and attach those to my card. And I thought these kind of coordinated with the glitter frame that we have on the front of the card. So here you can see a closer look at this card with all the detail we have. And I just love that Nuvo Embellishment Mousse, which I've got to start using a little bit more. And I also love those Nuvo Stone Drops that create that beautiful sandy effect. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.